Let me tell you what's happening in India right now. Okay. India's oil marketing companies, Indian Oil Corporation, Hindustan Petroleum, Bharat Petroleum, are losing about 1,000 crores every day. The rupee has hit an all-time low, and the foreign reserves outflows, have pulled out about 20 billion. Now, to understand the crisis that India is in, you will have to understand the situation happening at the Strait of Hormuz right now. So, this is a narrow waterway between Iran and Oman through which 20% of the world's oil passes. Right now, US is actively attacking Iran's tankers, oil tankers over there. Then Iran is attacking Kuwait and Bahrain. Basically, the strait is closed, and Brent oil index is at $97 per barrel. WTI is at $94 per barrel, and both are climbing. These oil measuring indexes are climbing. So why hasn't the price of oil completely exploded yet? So markets assume that this conflict would end quickly. They priced in a short war. Till now, companies have been drawing from stockpiles waiting for a resolution. But analysts are saying that June and July is the tipping point, because that's when stockpiles will hit critical levels. If Hormuz is not open till then, there are going to be global energy shortages and prices will go to $150 per barrel. So is a deal happening? Trump is saying that negotiations are largely done. Iran is saying that this is inconsistent with reality. Trump wants Iran to hand over its nuclear stockpiles to even sit down to for a ceasefire and agree to negotiations. So this is not post ceasefire and negotiations. Then they'll negotiate. This handover of nuclear stockpiles is to even sit down. Trump wants a handing over of nuclear enrichments. Obviously, Iran is not going to do so, and Iran is asking for a global ceasefire, which means the fighting between Israel and Hezbollah should also stop. As a part of the ceasefire for it to sit down for negotiations. Now, the thing is, Iran is used to sanctions for the past 40 years, and Trump has again underestimated Iran the way he did when he thought that this would be a quick regime change. It's going to be very simple. But Iran knows two things: that American elections are coming in November and Israeli elections are coming in October, and both America and Israel hence need oil prices to be manageable before then. And Iran is also completely willing to wait out and not give up its leverage, which is the Strait of Hormuz. It knows what a big leverage it is, and it knows that these global stockpiles are hitting low, so it is also playing the waiting game. So a patch up will come because something will happen, but it's not probably going to be a solution. It's going to be a patch up. Affect India. India imports over 90% of its oil and gas. The annual import bill is about $176 billion. Vedanta chairman Anil Agarwal said this week that this is exactly what makes India so structurally vulnerable to these kinds of shocks. He's right. Since Hormuz closed, India has lost over 40% of its crude oil flows, basically, which is nearly half of our supply, and that's fully gone. So, what is the government doing? IOCL, BPCL, HPCL are buying crude at high international prices, and they are keeping retail petrol and diesel prices frozen. Now, since these companies are buying expensive and selling cheap, that's basically where the 1,000 crore rupees is being lost. And this is not sustainable, but the only alternative is for the government to pass off these high prices to the consumers, which will mean inflation, which will mean political damage. So the government will not do this until it has to. So what is it doing to cushion the blow? Firstly, it is cutting excise duty on petrol and diesel by rupees 10 per litre. It has imposed windfall tax on diesel exports and on aviation fuel exports, and it is keeping refined products domestic, which means that companies are not allowed to export these products for profit. So while this seems to be working right now for us, for like the consumers, because the amount we need to pay isn't this high, the total revenue loss for the government is rupees 1.65 trillion rupees, which is basically 0.45% of our GDP, which is just gone. It's completely wrecking the government's balance sheet, and this this is leading to the RBI governor Sanjay Malhotra saying that this is going to cause some sort of monetary policy to be released. What does this mean? Interest rates are going to go up and credit is going to become more expensive, which will cause growth to slow further. And this will affect day to day consumers. India has moved actually quite fast on diversifying supply. First, the Gulf used to dominate basically UAE, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Qatar, and as recently as February, they were basically India's majority LPG supply, and now they are 16%. America is now India's largest LPG supplier. 55% of imports in May was America, which is a 73% jump from last month. That is a remarkable shift in only 1 month. And get this, on crude, Russia remains the top supplier. US has issued a third 30-day waiver on May 18th, which is basically allowing vulnerable nations to keep buying Russian crude by sea, and the waiver runs till June 17th. But the Indian government is saying that it will obviously continue buying Russian crude oil. Secondly, Venezuela. India's interest has sharply increased in Venezuela as an alternative source, and in Oman too. India imported about 250,000 barrels per day from Omani crude in May, which is a 179% increase from last month. And why? Because most of Oman's coastline is outside the Strait of Hormuz. It is directly on the Arabian Sea, and hence India's comprehensive economic partnership agreement with Oman, which just came into effect this week, this Monday, is coming into play. So on supply, India is being quite nimble, but even this nimble supply management has its consequences. And then there is another part to all of this which is not making the news, and it desperately should be. India depends on the Middle East for 40% of its fertilizers, and farming is like the largest profession in India, and right now specifically is Kharif season, the monsoon planting season. So rice, pulses, oil seeds are all being planted right now, and all of them require fertilizers, timely fertilizer. If the fertilizer supply does not stabilize quickly, then the yields will drop and farmers' incomes will drop and food prices will go up, and food security for a very, very big part of India for millions of people is at risk. And this is a chain. So all these three, basically the oil shock, fertilizer shock, and food shock, are happening simultaneously. The oil crisis you can see at the pump. The food crisis will show up in your plates within 3 to 6 months. India's 1.6 crore piped gas connections, and it has 33 crore LPG connections. The gap between what India is producing right now and what it needs is enormous, and there is no quick fix for the structural dependency. I think what every smart developing country is doing is buying Russian cheap oil and maintaining relationships on all sides and not getting sucked into wars that are not its own, and is protecting its own economic interests. Bangladesh is doing this, Vietnam is doing this, Kenya is doing this, and that is fine if India wants to be a large, prosperous, comfortably developing country. But since our ambition is to be a superpower on a permanent seat of the UNSC and basically the voice of all these developing countries, it is basically this entire neutrality is difficult. Because of this, purely Pakistan was the mediator between US and Iran, and it is insulting that our neighbor Pakistan gets to be in this room, and while it's not actually doing any mediating, it's just US is telling a certain message and then Iran is telling certain messages. It's like a message courier service. But still, this symbolic fact that that Pakistan is in the room and we are not, is not pointing good. This strategic autonomy thing is looking less like a strategy and more like fence sitting. See, India will absorb this shock. It has before and it will again. The government will eventually raise fuel prices probably in Q2 and the rupee will stabilize. OMC losses will get addressed, and India is in a way macroeconomically stronger position than in 1990. We will get through this. But getting through an economic crisis is not the same as an emerging strategically stronger from it. The 1990 crisis forced India to liberalize its economy. Something genuinely transformative came out of this. So the question is, what will come out of this one? If the answer is just that we survived and we diversified our oil suppliers and we kept our consumers happy till elections, we will be having the strategic autonomy question again. And strategic autonomy without strategic influence does not make sense. And that's the, yeah, thank